Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're looking at a story that starts with, honestly, a seemingly innocent profession, but then twists into an absolute nightmare. We're going to meticulously unpack this whole timeline of deception, missed connections, and a predator basically hiding in plain sight. It's a really dark, gripping case that shows just how incredibly fast a normal night out can turn into a desperate search for answers.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a pretty chilling hook. Quote, "When everything comes to light, it's going to be horrific, horrendous." End quote. Those are the actual words of Travis Forbes himself. And throughout this explainer, we're going to look at the exact timeline and the hard evidence to see, exactly how those horrific secrets finally did come to light.
Section 1. A bright light vanishes. The April Fool's Nightmare. So, the date was April 1st, and for Tony, who's the devoted stepfather of 19-year-old Kenya Monhaster, getting a frantic morning phone call from his wife saying Kenya was missing, well, it honestly felt like a cruel prank. He literally told her this is not the proper April Fool's joke, but tragically, it was no joke at all. Kenya had just completely vanished. And to understand why her disappearance was so alarming, we kind of have to look at who Kenya was. She was a college student studying broadcasting, a young woman who literally started her own Sunday school class, and just a fiercely loved older sister who brought so much joy to her family. But there was a bit of a contrast here. Like a lot of teenagers, she did have a bit of a secret party life, sneaking into 21 and over clubs down in Denver with a fake ID. Let's trace her steps that night, because the timeline is absolutely crucial here. Kenya was actually kicked out of a nightclub by security for being intensely intoxicated. So she's left out on the empty Denver streets wearing a black miniskirt and red high heels. And get this, she doesn't even have her purse, her jacket, or her phone. Surveillance footage then catches her stumbling into an apartment lobby with a man from the club looking visibly intoxicated. She briefly leaves, talks to a homeless man outside, and then she just completely disappears from the cameras. Gone. Section 2. The stepfather turns detective, hunting for clues. Now, with Kenya missing and the police just barely starting their standard protocols, an impatient and frankly terrified Tony couldn't just sit around and wait, right? So he kind of turned into a detective himself. He starts scouring her phone records, meticulously searching through names and messages, just begging for a lead. And then he finds a smoking gun. One particular message just screamed out to him. "Hey, this is Travis guy from last night, white creepy van. Did you get home?" Tony immediately suspects this Travis has to be the mystery man from the club. So he starts calling the number repeatedly, anxiously waiting for this guy with the quote-unquote creepy white van to call him back. Finally, a full 48 hours after Kenya was last seen, Travis actually calls back. And his initial story? Well, it was highly cooperative, but also incredibly suspicious. Travis claimed he saw Kenya stumbling on the street, offered her a ride in his van, and then stopped at a closed gas station because she wanted a cigarette. From there, he claims she just walked off into the night with a young Asian man smoking nearby, someone he just called Dan. Travis even agreed to meet Tony face-to-face at that exact gas station. Section 3. The creepy white van. Unraveling the alibi. So when Travis Forbes met with the police, he repeated that exact same story about dropping her off with Dan, and he even provided what seemed like a rock-solid alibi, fully backed up by a witness. But while police were launching this massive operation searching for Kenya, investigators started poking some serious holes in his timeline, and this is a brilliant example of how technology breaks open a case. Travis and his girlfriend Carrie claimed he was at her house sleeping from 3:30 a.m. all the way until 8 a.m. But when you look at the hard cell phone tower data, it completely destroyed their fabricated story. The data proved, without a doubt, that he was nowhere near her house during those hours. She was completely lying for him. With that alibi totally shattered, police zero in and search a downtown Denver bakery where Forbes actually made his own line of granola bars. And the forensic clues they found were, honestly, macabre. Surveillance video caught him wheeling his delivery cooler into the bakery's freezer on the exact night Kenya vanished. Investigators found that cooler heavily bleached, but, and this is a huge but, they discovered a single human cell on the drain plug. Plus, his white delivery van smelled overwhelmingly of bleach and randomly had brand new carpet installed. Huge red flags. Section 4. A chilling second attack. The miracle in Fort Collins. So after a brief arrest in Texas for an unrelated stolen car, Denver police actually put undercover officers on Forbes, hoping he'd lead them straight to Kenya. but then they temporarily drop surveillance. Just 2 days later, the narrative shifts to a terrifying escalation about an hour north in Fort Collins. A young woman named Lydia Tillman was ferociously attacked in her apartment. I mean, it was brutal. She was raped, strangled, beaten senseless, doused in bleach, and her apartment was literally set on fire to burn her to death. But Lydia is an absolute miracle. She somehow survived. She jumped out of a second-story window to escape, and even with a shattered jaw, completely unable to speak, she still managed to identify Travis Forbes as her attacker the moment she emerged from a medically induced coma. Unbelievable. And here is why her survival was the ultimate game changer. While Lydia was fighting for her life, crime lab technicians found biological material trapped underneath her fingernails. It was an undeniable, absolute forensic match to Travis Forbes. Because she fought back so bravely, she secured the exact scientific DNA evidence needed to finally end his reign of terror.
Section 5. The Baker's Dark Confession. A gruesome reality.
Now confronted with the undeniable DNA from Lydia's attack, his completely shattered alibi, and the fact that his girlfriend was arrested for lying to the police, Travis Forbes' story just collapsed. To avoid the death penalty, he made a dark, highly dramatic confession. He admitted that after Kenya woke up in his van and slapped him for assaulting her in her sleep, he strangled her. Let's break down this cover-up process, because it shows a really calculated ruthlessness. First, he put her body in the exact same cooler he used to deliver his homemade granola bars. And in a deeply disturbing detail, he actually noted that rigor mortis set in, causing her arms to spring up and keeping the cooler open, which forced him to tape it shut. He drove around for hours, took that cooler to the bakery freezer, bleached her body, bleached his van, and then finally burned the evidence in a barrel. Forbes eventually led detectives to a rural grove of trees where he had buried Kenya 5 feet deep in a ravine. And the aftermath of all this was just utterly devastating. Her family was irreparably broken. The tragedy even ended Tony and Maria's marriage. Yet, amidst all this profound darkness, there was this incredible capacity for grace. Both Lydia Tillman, the survivor, and Kenya's sister, Kimberly, expressed remarkable sentiments of forgiveness toward Forbes after his conviction. Just an unbelievable amount of strength.
Section 6. A serial killer's warning. The unresolved threat.
Travis Forbes is now spending the rest of his natural life in prison. But our explainer doesn't just end neatly right there. See, in his own letters and confessions, Forbes described himself as evil and a dark person, freely admitting he just doesn't know why he did it. Which brings us to this absolutely terrifying admission. Listen to this. I want to confess so bad because there's more victims out there we don't know about. It's just a matter of time before they come up. That heavily hints at a much darker, undiscovered history of violence. He essentially promised that when his full secrets come to light, the world will be horrified. And that leaves us with a really provocative question, one that Kenya's own stepfather firmly believes to be true. Is Travis Forbes actually a serial killer? Are there more victims out there, just buried beneath a web of alibis and bleach, waiting for the truth to finally come to light? It's a terrifying possibility, and it underscores exactly why it is so crucial to meticulously unpack the facts, just like we did today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning.